The morning sun of Valara Prime cast long shadows across the training grounds, and Arya Voss stood at the center of it all, hands on her hips, surveying the chaos before her. 32 cubs, furry, wide-eyed, and entirely too enthusiastic, sat in somewhat organized rows, their tails twitching with anticipation. They were Valarans, a species that resembled a cross between Earth's red pandas and oversized house cats, with intelligence that rivaled humanity's finest, and bodies built for agility, not endurance. Arya had been assigned to the Velaran Defense Academy 3 months ago as part of the Galactic Council's cultural exchange program. The Council had insisted that humans, with their peculiar biology and stubborn resilience, could teach the younger species valuable lessons about perseverance. What they hadn't mentioned was that teaching alien children was like herding particularly adorable tornadoes. "All right, everyone," Arya called out, clapping her hands together. "Today we're going to work on something simple. Push-ups." Kiro, the small cub at the front of the group, perked up immediately. His orange and cream fur bristled with excitement, and his large amber eyes fixed on Arya with the kind of determination that would have been intimidating if he weren't barely 3 feet tall. "Push-ups," Kiro repeated, his voice squeaking. "We know push-ups. We are very strong," Arya smiled. She'd grown fond of Kiro over the past weeks. He was the self-appointed leader of the cubs, always the first to volunteer, always the loudest to cheer on his friends, and always the first to dramatically collapse when things got difficult. "Good," Arya said. "Then let's see what you've got. Everyone, get into position." The cubs scrambled into place, mimicking Arya's stance as she dropped into a plank position. Their little paws pressed against the synthetic training mat, tails sticking straight up in the air. They looked ridiculous. Arya bit back a laugh. "Now watch me carefully," she said. "Back straight. Core engaged. Down. Then up. That's 1. No. No," she demonstrated slowly, her movements controlled and precise. The cubs watched with rapt attention, their ears swiveling to catch every word. "Your turn," Arya said, rising back to her feet. "Let's do 20. Ready? Down." What followed could only be described as organized pandemonium. The cubs dropped, their little arms trembling almost immediately. Kiro, true to form, was pushing himself with everything he had, his face scrunched up in concentration. Around him, the other cubs struggled, their bodies wobbling like gelatin. 1, Arya counted. 2, 3. By the 5th push-up, several cubs had already face-planted into the mat. By the 8th, more than half the group was panting heavily, their tongues lolling out. Kiro was still going, but his form had deteriorated into something that resembled a drunk caterpillar trying to do yoga. 10, Arya called, impressed despite herself. "Halfway there. Come on, Kiro, you've got this." Kiro's arms shook violently, sweat matted his fur to his forehead, his breathing came in desperate little gasps, but he kept going, driven by sheer willpower and the competitive fire that burned in every cub, who wanted to prove themselves to the strange, impossibly strong human. 11, 12. That's when it happened. Kiro's arms gave out completely. He didn't just stop, he collapsed like a building in a controlled demolition, his face smooshing into the mat with a muffled oof. For a moment, he just lay there, spread-eagle and defeated. Then, from somewhere in the pile of exhausted cubs, a small voice whimpered, "I cannot feel my arms." Another cub added, "Why are humans made of metal?" Kiro rolled onto his side, his chest heaving. He looked up at Arya with the most pitiful expression she'd ever seen, his eyes huge and glistening. "Instructor Voss," he wheezed. I think I am dying." Arya walked over and crouched beside him. "You're not dying, Kiro. You did great." "I did 12, he said weakly, holding up his paws as if counting them would somehow make the number bigger. "You said 20. 12 is excellent for your first try," Arya assured him. "Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We've had practice." Kiro's expression shifted from despair to confusion. "Thousands of years? You practice falling down?" "We practice getting back up," Arya corrected gently. That's when something unexpected happened. One of the other cubs, a small gray-furred thing named Piri, crawled over to Kiro and flopped down beside him. Then another joined. And another. Within seconds, the entire training group had abandoned their positions and formed a massive cuddle pile around Kiro, their tails intertwining, their soft purrs filling the air. Arya blinked. What's happening? Kiro looked up from the center of the pile, his voice muffled by several layers of cub. We failed together, he explained, as if this were the most obvious thing in the world. So we comfort each other. It is the Veleron way. Arya felt something warm and unexpected bloom in her chest. She'd been so focused on pushing them, on teaching them resilience, that she'd forgotten they had their own strengths. Humans endured alone. Velarans endured together. She sat down on the mat, cross-legged, and looked at the pile of exhausted, purring cubs. You know what? You guys didn't fail. Kiro's head popped up. We did not finish. No, Arya agreed. But you tried something hard. And you supported each other when it got tough. That's not failure. That's teamwork. Kiro considered this, his whiskers twitching. Then he smiled, showing tiny, pointed teeth. Does this mean no more push-ups? Arya laughed. Nice try. Tomorrow we're doing 15. The collective groan from the cuddle pile was so loud it echoed across the training grounds. But as Arya stood and dusted herself off, she noticed something. Kiro was already whispering to the others, his voice animated and excited. He was planning, strategizing, figuring out how they could do better as a group. Humans were strong alone. But maybe, just maybe, there was something to be learned from those who chose to be strong together. Arya smiled. The Galactic Council had sent her here to teach. She just hadn't expected to be the one learning. All right, team, she called out. 5-minute break, then we're running laps. The cuddle pile exploded into a chorus of protests, but Kiro was already on his feet, tail high, rallying his troops. Tomorrow, they'd do 15 push-ups. And Arya had no doubt they'd find a way to make it work together.